Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, and today's Herbal 411 highlight is on restrictive breathing. So those of you who are coming with me to Colorado, I suggest you start training now, because as you get up in altitude, 14,000 feet, there's not as much pressure top of the mountains, and oxygen, all the molecules are dispersed. So the FiO2, the pressure is different up top than it is down below. The amount of oxygen is still there, but it's going to make you work at gasping for air, oxygen, because as you go up, the same effort that you do at ground level or Chicago level to take a deep inspiration, if you even do that, especially with exercise, you can do that at top as you're walking at an incline, but you're not going to get the same oxygen. So brain is eventually going to say, hey, what's going on? Not enough oxygen, make the diaphragm move faster. So you're going to have your heart rate go up and down, and you're going to have your diaphragm move up and down. So that's not a good feeling as you hit your 50s to have a heart that's going like this just from walking. It's kind of disturbing. If you're young, probably not a big deal. The masks that you see that are there for resistance training or altitude acclimation, these don't really help. Now, this is a mask. I've done videos on this before to build up your lungs to get ready for COVID. But in this case, as vaccines are getting out, you're going to be allowed to go back into the gym and get back into the public. And it's summer. I don't want you to be apprehensive you have to wear one of these. I talked to somebody and they said when they were doing their cardio, it was a lot harder. Of course, it's a lot harder because you have a restrictive breath. And it's going to seem like you're about to pass out. Feeling you won't pass out. But it's because your muscles are used to a certain amount, your brain's used to a certain amount of oxygen. When you have a cover like this, it's going to feel claustrophobic and it's going to make you work a little bit harder, meaning that your diaphragm is going to be triggered more and your heart rate is going to be triggered to go a little higher. And that's okay. So if you're feeling that you're dizzy or you have a medical problem, don't take this as medical advice. Take the information to your doctor, see what they say. They're going to say, don't work out. And I don't agree. If you don't have a doctor that believes in what you believe in, come see me at herbal411.com. and I can be your doctor, even if you're in a different state or different country. I can give you advice as a coach. Now, the objective is, again, to get healthy again. A lot of my clients and patients have gained about 5 to 10 pounds over COVID. I'm in the same boat because I've been off, haven't been able to get out and exercise. I have some equipment in my basement, but that's just boring. So I think that if I'm going to be taking you guys, anybody that's coming with me to Colorado, 14,000 feet in one day, 3,000 foot elevation within about 3 miles, that's a lot of work, especially if you're used to Chicago and you're going to be heading to an altitude at base that's about 11,000 feet. So then the kit from 11,000 to 14,000 is a chore. So I want you healthy. You runners are probably going to be okay because you're used to that kind of endurance. But again, I would still challenge you. See what you can feel and get used to it. You might have to, in the beginning, slow down your pace, and that's fair. In my last video, I talked about stamina and getting used to lactic acid. I talked about strength. When you use restrictive breathing like this, and those of you who used to wrestle, look familiar? I remember watching the wrestling team walking around the mat, jogging around the mat, carrying sandbags, and breathing like this. And the restriction because of the tube makes it hard to breathe. If you want to use one of these restrictive devices, so these things, you can change these valves so it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. More holes, a lot of air. Less holes, restricted air. So if you wear this, and watch I'll put a link down below to the video I did. If you wear this, you're not going to be protected from COVID, but you will be restrictive. Again, you're going to have to work. You're not going to pass out. You'll still get oxygen in, but you have to use a lot more diaphragm work and accessory muscle use. So those of you who are asthmatic, this is what you should be doing. This is an incentive spirometer. This is what we give people in the hospital to exercise with when they're stuck in bed. All you have to do is you have to keep this ball in the middle, and that means you have to inspire. When you inspire, your diaphragm goes down and your accessory muscles go up, and that just pulls oxygen into your lungs. You do this enough, and you're going to get winded within about 5 pulls. So the guys that leave the hospital, they're just doing this every 15 minutes, and you can see them getting stronger and stronger as time goes on. So there is value in inspiratory muscle training, also known as respiratory muscle training. Again, it's probably more for people with COPD or asthma, sometimes even emphysema. But for those of you who don't have any pulmonary disease, if you wanted to give yourself a challenge, again, to get a little bit more work here, you can take a yoga class, because an hour of yoga usually has you inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So all those poses are a distraction to keep you into an isometric pose, but also have you work on your breath and dissociate from all the stressors outside. Kind of detach, it's mindful breath for an hour. That's why people feel so good afterward. Number one, they're doing a lot of breathing. Number two, they're forgetting about the outside world and their schedules. So it's very relaxing, it's very invigorating. I'd say when spring rolls around, places open up, vaccines start to accumulate, you'll probably have an opportunity to work out or be in the public. It's always important to wear a mask, especially if you haven't been vaccinated, but there are going to be some rules that say you have to mask. And don't be discouraged, but try to get used to it first. It's also going to be hard to work out with your usual vigor. For those of you who don't have the requirement in your gym to wear a mask, I challenge you to do restrictive breathing and train every once in a while with this thing on. I used to see people at the gym wear this and it looked like they were from Mortal Kombat. I think you can get by with trying it and seeing how you do with your exercises. My suggestion is, if you're taking the breaks, as I usually see in the gym, do a squat, take a break. Do a set of dumbbells, take a break. Do pull-ups, take a break. I try to force you to do them back to back. We used to call these things giant sets, where you do squats, a set of pull-ups, some other dumbbell movement, go back to the squats, and you wouldn't have a break. Again, modeling after the guys that would do high-intensity stuff like wrestlers, crew team. In the 80s, we had bodybuilders, Ray and Mike Mensker, who would do back to back to back, and they would be fine. You'd probably have a very good cardiovascular endurance. So regardless, if you're kind of plateaued, you're getting bored because you've reached max, you're not really seeing any more gains, restrict and see how you do with restriction. It'll force you to get a little bit more work in your diaphragm. And speaking of plateauing, if you are in a circuit or you're doing your own thing and you're not seeing any more muscle gains, you're not seeing any buildup of weight, you're not hitting a 1 rep max, I'm challenging you to get a coach. I'll be doing a video on 1 rep maxing, which helps to stimulate more muscle growth. And you don't have to be a huge bodybuilder, but I think when you do develop strength and power, just like my last video, it will get you to a higher level of performance. The more optimized you are with your performance, the less the chance for disease. Don't forget to subscribe to me and hit the alert button, because my next video will be about how to do a 1 rep max and what's the meaning of that. Thanks for watching up until this point, and see you at the next video.